record to my computer. Kris, thank you very much for agreeing to talk to me today. I'm excited to share part of your day with you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate being here. This is a really exciting interview, hopefully interesting for your audience as well.
Oh yeah, oh it will be. So I'm I'm broadening my reach now because you are in Portishead.
Yes, I am indeed. Yeah, just on the outskirts of Bristol, in a small little village, as you say, called Portishead on the marina.
Marina, are there lots of yachts? Is it a yacht kind of place?
Very yachty, yes. I don't fit in from that point of view. Not got one yet.
Not yet. See, intention has been set, not yet.
Yet. It will be a canoe if I do get one. It won't be a yacht.
Kris's canoe. Well, let's think about what's going to help you get to that yacht. Could you please, for the listeners, tell us your name and what you do today, what your profession is?
So, good question. So my name is Kris Britton, and many people call me KAYBE. And my business is actually called KAYBE, but the phonetic spelling of my initials, so KAYBE, and that's where the name was born for the business. And what do I do? My official job role is a typical limited company managing director. And my day-to-day is pretty much anything and everything. And that's typical to my working ethos, where I would never ask anyone in the team to do anything that I've not already done before or wouldn't be happy doing myself. So that's a bit why I apply myself to everything in the business.
Right. Okay. So you actually you will answer the phones and do the tax return, or have you got people that do that for you?
I've got the tax return generally gets compiled by the accountant, but I will still oversee it and double check it and make sure we're happy with everything that's going out. But yeah, answering calls right the way through to copy paste when we're doing like a data transfer or moving data around in spreadsheets and things. So yes, I'm not beneath anything to get stuck in.
And how old is the business?
So the business is very young as a limited company, but actually it was first founded by me as going out as a marketing consultant. So originally working as a sole trader, and then I met my business partner and we formed a partnership, but we didn't intend to start a business, and it kind of grew into a point where we went, right, accountant said, you need to get yourself as a limited company, you're going to start employing people, you need to diversify as to what you're going to be offering, so it's best to sit as a limited company. And the business has grown from that. So while on paper as a limited company we look like we've only been established for a couple of years, we've actually been going for about 5 years now as KAYBE. So yeah, we've got quite a lot of customers that we've acquired over that period of time.
Brilliant. Okay, so if we then go back, so you're running your own business today, running a limited company, you employ people, you're delivering big marketing campaigns. What was secondary school like? Hated
it. So with a passion, I would say, actually. Okay. So it was a love to hate relationship that I had. So I started in secondary school with, call yourself the keener of the world. I mean, that was the slang that was being used then. I'm sure it's evolved over the years. But keener, the person who wanted to do good and achieve really good results. Okay. And I started from year 7 to year 9 and moved halfway through year 10 to another secondary school, which was a major upheaval, as you can imagine. And I think that was because my parents, but it was because of bullying that I moved. But my parents were very keen for me to go to a Catholic school. And it was like a square peg round hole situation. And it was not a good fit. And their ethos just did not match up to mine, and the way they operated didn't really work at all. So halfway through year 10, I moved to another regular state school that was just non-religious. And I've got no disrespect to anyone who's religious or anything along those lines, but it worked out so much better. But I was very rebellious then. I had this new mean streak in secondary school. And I went in and worked my way out of as many lessons as possible, which is awful. So I didn't do PE because I told them I had a heart murmur, gave me free lessons for that. Didn't free periods.
Do you have a heart murmur, Kris?
I do, but it was so mild, It doesn't affect me at all athletically. So, you know, and then I went to them and told them that I couldn't do any languages because I didn't do any languages at my previous school, which is rubbish. I did French and Spanish, but then I managed to drop out languages. So in effect, once I'd whittled everything down, I'd only ended up doing about 6 GCSEs. I think the average is like 12 or 13. Wow. So it was a very much selected as to what I wanted, which was lovely, but very, very naughty of me, I suppose.
Okay, but you knew what you didn't want to do, which
Correct.
is key, I think, in life. Just a quick question on what was it about going to a Catholic school that your parents thought would be such a good educational choice?
Educational choice? Don't know. I think it was more the religious choice of the fact that I would have to attend mass. I would have a religious upbringing, and that this theory of God would be something that would be throughout all of my education. Because, for example, once a week you would have mass at school and you would have to attend things. And I was very heavily involved in it. You know, there was one point in my life, big shocker here now, you know, you heard it here first. It's one point in my life I was going to consider becoming a priest. That's how religious I was, just to throw that out there. So I was very engrossed in this whole religious, I don't want to use the word cult, but this religious formation, shall we say. And it wasn't really me, but it was something that I got very engrossed in. And I think with the lack of support when the bullying started was what made me think, actually, this is not all what it's cracked up to be, because they say you should, you know, love one another and all of this, but actually when it comes to dealing with matters, there was no shits given. Let's just drop it there. Let's drop the S-bomb. Yeah, there was no real cares given by anyone. So and that's ultimately why I moved. Right.
Okay. So I found out that was not the right environment for you to be in.
Yeah.
And then you've gone to a school where you said, well, I don't like these lessons, I'm not going to do that. But you did sit some GCSEs. And do you remember how you got on with your results?
I do. But I wasn't focused on achieving great results. Wasn't my ultimate goal. My goal was I'm a big person, and I hate to quote Thatcher here, but I'm a big person for opportunity. And I believe with opportunity, anyone can do anything that they put their mind to. So when I was 16, using the free lessons at school, I started my own business. That's what I started in. So there's an interesting story for you, to the point where my parents had to get me a credit card machine in their name so I could take card transactions, because you couldn't have a credit facility unless you were 18 or over. So going back to your question, while I was there to obviously get an education, I wasn't really focused on that. I did get an A grade, and that was in food technology. I've always been passionate about cooking and food, but I got C's. I got C's and a D in science. So I retook my science, but I just about scraped C's and an A out of all of the lessons. But when you compare that to my attempt at A levels, that was an amazing achievement, because my going on to my A levels was ungradable. Out of the 4 I took, English language, English literature, psychology, and it's just 3, and psychology, got ungradable. So there you go.
Okay. I also took those A levels, but I did scrape a pass on them. But the thing that I did not do was I didn't set up my own business that required me to get a credit card machine. I was cleaning offices and taking fag butts out of ashtrays. So who's winning there? Yeah.
Come on, give me your rags to riches story, Tony. Give it to me. We're all in the same canoe here. I was a
cleaner. They all thought the cleaners were nicking the biscuits, but we weren't. We were nicking the Tippex.
Of course. So, what else would you nick?
Tell me about the business you started. What were you selling that was so hot that you needed a credit card facility?
Hot to trot. So there were 2 things. So originally I started it as I recently lost at that time my aunt to breast cancer. And what I wanted to do was to I knew I wanted to go into cosmetics. I knew I wanted to go into online commerce. But before I did that, I wanted to dabble with something that was safer and wouldn't necessarily risk in losing large amounts of money or investment or time, etc. So I started a charity tap dance, and it turned into a bit of a phenomenon, far bigger than I ever expected it to be. So we ended up getting a lot of support from, and press coverage as well, from Andrew Lloyd Webber, Anton Deck. We had lots of, so for gifts and things like this that were being donated for raffles, and their management companies were absolutely amazing. So I did, in this shopping centre, a tap dance that was, well, 3 actually, and in a space of about 4 minutes or 5 minutes of a dance scene, we generated about 12 to 15,000 pounds. I can't remember the exact figure off the top of my head. And again, that required the use of taking card payments. So that's where it started. And I got a bug for being in control and being able to create something from nothing. So obviously those were
Can you tap dance?
Yes.
Oh, you can. Oh, good.
Yeah, I can, but I wasn't dancing actually, but I had an awesome choreographer at the school, and who was a dance teacher, obviously, and she choreographed the whole thing, and she was amazing. And so very, very different to what you would, I suppose, start out with in life, but it was great to pull friends together, family support, and all of these things to make it happen. So it was in the shopping centre in the middle of Bristol on a Saturday. No one knew it was happening, but it raised a ton of money and got a load of heads turned, and quite an achievement.
Anton Deck just tippy tapping through.
Why not?
Okay, so you've done your charity tap dance, raised a load of money, and then so that's sort of got you like, I can create something and make money from it, which went to charity. Amazing. Then what?
Then I started in cosmetics. So my first business I started was a business that sold cosmetics online. And the idea behind this was purely to sell makeup to really just from a wholesale point of view. So we'd sell it to like makeup artists, and we'd sell it to likes of some of our customers like BBC, ITN, Channel 4, Bloomberg. So it would be used for TV and media, and it was high definition makeup. Never have been a makeup artist myself, always been interested in it, but never understood anything beyond the science of pigmentations and things like this. So but that grew to the point where we were having more customer inquiries from the general public than we were from wholesale. So we ended up diversifying and offering it out as a B2C product and directly offering it to consumers. And then from that offering, we then, as I say, people bought that online, and that's when I really started to make the money, as it were, and things really started to take off. And I thought, okay, I've got some kind of ability to do this here, and never really been taught on it. It's more just trial and error. But I'm a very big believer in fail fast. So if you're going to fail fast and then change direction.
And how old were you at that point?
17, and then rolled over into sold the business at 21, I think then. Yes. And
so when you sold the business, what position did that put you in? Could you afford to buy your own house?
Yes, I did. And I did. So I was really pleased with that. I originally bought my own house, but paid a huge proportion off. I originally bought my first house when I was 18 off the success of that, and then sold the business at 21. And took a bit of a break from there, but did start to, then I went into a completely different business again. So, yeah.
One thing that's really interesting to me actually is, initially your parents chose a school for you, that didn't work out. You then, you've moved schools, you've made a clear choice on something that you want to do, and your parents have said, yeah, sure, we'll get you a credit facility. That's really interesting to me. How are they entrepreneurial?
Absolutely not. So I couldn't be more so many people ask that question, where do you get your entrepreneurial flair from? It's not from my mum, it's not from my dad. My mum did run, she's taken early retirement, same as my dad, a prison in Bristol, a male prison. And Yeah, very different. And my dad was a personal bank manager, and also operated a lot of the retail incentive schemes that happened within banking and the finance sector. So two different personalities from their point of view, but then when you consider my personality, there is zero crossover on either side of those, apart from being maybe money obsessed, if by my own admission. But is that a bad thing? I don't know. Some people don't like it, but yeah, that's what I would.
Well, there's a real, and what's interesting actually to me is that my initial driver on leaving school was, I need to make money. I have to make money. I can't afford not to make money. And the first person that I interviewed for the podcast, Nina, the same went for her. She was like, once she started earning money, she said, this is where I want to be heading, to create that financial security. So you bought and sold a business by the time you were 21, taking a break, because you can afford to.
As you do.
As you do. What did you do after that? What motivated you to take your next step?
There was a gap in the market, and I thought this would be a safe bet. So basically, we were going through a phase where the government were handing out large incentive programs for individuals to be able to, and businesses to be able to buy renewable energy generators, and then they would be paid for either generating heating or hot water or electricity or whatever that might be. So this was referred to as either the renewable heat incentive or something called ROCs, which were a tradable commodity, which are renewable obligation certificates. So my thinking was this was a very safe area to work in because there are government-backed schemes. And so basically, I went into starting the second business, which was bioenergy and solid fuel combustion. So effectively, I know, right? Very, very closely tied to cosmetics, Tony. I don't know why you're laughing. I mean,
nuclear eyelashes.
Why not?
Well, yeah, nuclear eyelashes. Would it be wind-powered eyelashes? I don't know.
Exactly. We did something a little bit different. So we burnt chicken litter and horse litter and generated the heating and hot water for poultry farms, abattoirs, and stables, these types of environments. Yeah. And then we sold that energy either back to the grid or used it on site and then claimed the renewable heat incentive. Yeah. However, that success story was shortly lived because the business went bang overnight, all because of one customer attempting to take a loan out for a boiler and having no intention of actually buying it. And we obviously bought the goods in good faith. And to put that into perspective, you think, okay, a business can take a hit of one customer. An average typical contract value for that business was about £800,000, £850,000. Wow. So when you take a whack of that much, it can make you go bang overnight, especially when you've got a number of customers and staff that you need to keep happy. So it was a horrible experience, but one where I learned an awful lot. And I think that's where I learned to trust people the least during that experience, because people's word is not as great as you may take it to be. And when people don't have the right intentions, it can obviously scupper your plans.
Yeah. And were there any times when, I'm thinking that you've worked through the cosmetic side of things, you've worked with enormous media organizations, then in the renewables you're dealing with very high value contracts. I guess there's two questions for me in there. One is, what was it that got you over that fear that many people would have of like, oh, I am like not long out of school and I'm going to go and sell cosmetics to ITN? That's one thing. Or, I'm early 20s and I'm dealing with a loan of £800,000. Is there ever a point where you thought, this is big?
I never really take a step back and consider it like that. And I to the point where an hour before this agreed interview, I turned to the person next to me, who's called Ethan, and I said, really don't know if I've got the credentials to be doing this. this is surely about people's success stories, and I don't feel very successful in comparison to, you know, are you looking to get the Jeff Bezos of this world and these types of people when you look at their levels of success? So I think success is always in the eye of the beholder, I suppose, because what I see as successful in my eyes is not where I am now, it's where I'm going to be in 5 or 10 years' time. Whereas when I talk to many other people, they say, well, look how much you've achieved and look at the success of what you've got and how big the business is and the people you employ and all of that. But I suppose it very much depends on what each individual deems as success. So tying that back into your question, I never really take a step back and go, wow, look at all we've achieved. I do sometimes on a yearly basis try and take New Year's to take as a time of reflection. And I say, what was things like this time last year? And I'll go, okay, a lot's been achieved there, but I never would attribute that necessarily to success. So yeah, I don't really go, wow. I think I'm very brazen, and it's probably my lack of taking the time to really consider what the ramifications would be if something goes wrong. And I will just jump in feet first. And I'll go, one of my first pitches ever for the cosmetics was to Harrods buying department for cosmetics. And to be honest with you, I was it wasn't until I was leaving going, how on earth did I end up actually getting that appointment? And it was through direct email, making a contact, but I will always aim high. And then if I don't get that, I will just at least fall a bit lower. But I won't be starting low and then trying to incrementally grow to a higher point.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it, actually. I did send a direct message to Slow Tie. I thought, I'm going to see if he'll be on this podcast. Probably not. But you think, well, why not? DMs are open. No doubt his people have gone, I don't think so. Okay, so your feet first, diving in. You've got a business that you sold, made great money. You've got a business that's gone bang. What do you do next?
I think for me, it was very much you don't have the credentials on paper to be able to throw yourself in at the deep end from a marketing point of view. So you have to prove yourself through experience. Okay. So I started working on contracts with individuals such as some smaller organizations like Kodak. I know that sounds like a very big consumer name, but actually the operational side of things is very small behind the scenes of what happens. So I worked with some larger consumer brands in order to drive some recognizable credentials, which would then help me grow the business and what I'm able to offer moving forward, because people get excited by the power of a brand name. Yeah. And really my focus from there was, because one thing that's been consistent, let's be clear here, is that I've not just bounced from cosmetics to bioenergy with like no real idea of where I'm going. It has consistently been driven by my ability to drive sales through marketing. The only reason that I've been able to secure the sales or the ability to bring in revenue has been through being able to pitch it directly out to wholesalers, directly out to consumers, directly out to buyers, so that I can start those conversations. So there has been a consistency through all of the businesses, that there has been always a drive on marketing. And I was really fearful starting an agency, because my question always was, can you marketing? It's like, can you telesales? You know, it's and ironically, you know, it's like when you go into the hairdressers and your stylist is bold, or you go to a plumber and he's moaning, your plumber's at your house and he's moaning about his boiler that doesn't work at home. You know, it's the projects that never get finished by the people who are experts in their field. And it's like, actually, I haven't had a chance to do marketing in a marketing agency, but I can apply all of what I've learned to the agency to be able to get great results for customers. So that's the difference here, is that I'm not actually marketing myself anymore. I'm now marketing on behalf of others, and using all of that experience from before into applying it into the current business.
Right. Okay. And at Kodak, you ran marketing for them?
Globally.
And campaigns for them? Yeah.
Yes. And so then all sorts of campaigns. They were mainly consumer driven. But I did a lot also at that time. I did a lot of work with Transitions Optical, so the lenses that change color, the photochromic lenses when you go outside. Again, Kodak is the Shun for photography, but this was their spectacle lens arm that I was working with. So hence the introduction to Transitions. and work with brands like Ray-Ban and other frame manufacturers as well as lenses, to be able to, from a consultative point of view, really to help grow the business division. So you get a good experience there of both consumer side and also dealing directly with opticians and optical outlets of what the B2B side of things are as well. So I think that was probably a great area of learning for me, and obviously understanding how larger brands operate at that level from behind the scenes.
Yeah, and just on those transitions, I mean, the marketing is great because, like, my husband bought a pair, and I remember though him go to the supermarket and saying, "These are awful." He said, because they're great when you're outside and the sun comes out. He said, then you go inside and you're walking around a supermarket with dark glasses on, and people look at you like, you're not the sort of person I want to, leave my children around, because they take a very long time to go back.
Not anymore, not anymore. They've got Generation 8 out now, and they are much quicker at turning back to clear, as long as they are Transitions branded. I don't know about other brands out there on the market, but I can speak highly of Transitions. So
still got your finger in the
there's a quick
the
plug there. Yeah, exactly.
So you've done Kodak, and where are you going next? How do you get from Kodak to running your own agency?
Just purely bouncing from person to person, business to business on very short stints of time intentionally. And this is purely to grow up to collate a really good level of understanding of how businesses operate, because to date, at that point, I'd only ever known how I'd operated my businesses. And it was a great opportunity to then be applied into other businesses and get, as a consultant, a really close understanding of how they run their P&Ls, how do they run their budgets, what do they do once they've generated their marketing contacts. So from there, I had opportunities in digital publishing, specifically within accounting and finance, or within HR, or there was a business forums publication as well. So there were a number of publications that I worked with during that period, and almost agency style setup that they were. And then separately from there, I've also worked in technology and software companies. And I thought that was going to be my biggest learning opportunity. And I was right. So selling software as a service, how do you apply a software product, retail it out as a service, and then also leverage a recurring revenue in order to grow out the budget over a period of time. So from my point of view, I really wanted to take a number of learning opportunities as short stints. And for me, in that point of view, education has been free, because I've been able to, in fact, actually, I've been paid to be educated, because through the willingness to take an opportunity and to really apply myself. And don't get me wrong, it's very much not a 9 to 5. You have to be doing the legwork outside of the typical 9 to 5 hours to be able to truly apply yourself. But through really gaining a good understanding of how businesses operate, and be able to apply, rather than just be able to apply theory, to be able to apply practically how something works. In theory, something's great, but to be able to apply practical nous as to how something would work has really been a great tool to leverage in order to be able to grow not only my business, but other people's businesses as well.
And it's really interesting, and I'm making notes there, because what you said about those intentional short steps, if I think about times when I've been in employment, lots of organizations will say, well, you must spend at least 2 years in this role, or you are taught to think about careers in that linear, long-term, you have to spend many, many years doing the same thing. But you're doing agile before it's become a thing. Like you said, you're failing fast, going, or not failing fast, just saying, I'm going to learn this and move on, learn this and move on.
But that's true in my recruitment style. So many recruiters will say you need to have, like you say, X experience, X years of experience in this or that. I will intentionally look for someone who has limited experience, but a passion for what they want to do. Passion for me is far more important than education, a million times more. So I've got someone in sales here who has been absolutely fantastic, has a passion for sales, never really had a massive opportunity to grow, learn and develop. And he has come in and absolutely shaken things up. And the reason that he's been able to shake things up is because I've been able to teach him how I need it to be sold, and what I've learned over the years is the best way to sell, rather than being a number, sitting there and just dialing out time and time again for big companies like RAC or whatever they might be. You know, you don't want to sit there just dialing out outbound and being part of an outbound call center. Is how do you generate sales? Because ultimately you're not selling, you're helping someone solve a problem. And taking that mind step is that understanding is so important. Having that mindset is critical to be able to be successful. So for me, it's not, oh, I've got 5 years experience in sales. If anything, that's a bit of a turn off, you know, or I've gone to do these extra courses in sales. Yes, it's great you've been able to do extra courses, and don't get me wrong, everyone needs a place to start. But passion is really the key driver, I think, to being successful. And then with passion, naturally, you take more opportunities that are presented to you, or you hunt them down if you can't find any.
Yeah, and so with your recruitment practices there, you said, how do you bring people into your business then?
So in a very backwards way, the recruiter that we work with, he's absolutely awesome. His name's Philip Keith. He's absolutely brilliant. But I think we do things very differently than any other customer that he works with. So for the ability to be able to focus on still growing the business, because we're still a small business, so we can't spend hours and hours and hours recruiting, we get him to interview the people beforehand. And he's now learned, and we then get a copy of that recording and we watch back the ones that have been shortlisted, so that we're not even involved in the step one. So he knows exactly what we're looking for. And through the time that we've spent working together, we've been able to get a really good he's been able to get a really good understanding of the kind of level of passion that we need. And the level of experience is great, don't get me wrong, and experience in business is extremely important. But if you've got a good level of passion, which he knows is what we're looking for, we've had people come on with very little experience, but also very little passion. And that's not going to help anyone and not going to get us excited. Whereas someone goes, I really want to break into marketing, or I really want to break into sales, or most recently I've hired a PA, and she's been very, very, very passionate about getting into PA, but she's done a whole multitude of other things beforehand, and that haven't necessarily been related to being an executive assistant. So for me, when we took her on, it was a bit of a risk, because we've got all these other PAs who have got 8, 9, 10, 12 years experience and are really, really great credentials, but actually they're going to operate in a very corporate way, in a way that won't work for us. We're very fun, we're very different, and that's important that personality fits, which is why they weren't successful in the recruitment process. But Nicola was very successful in that recruitment process, because she's been able to apply herself from that point of view, and has that passion to get involved in something so heavily.
Wow, it's really interesting. And how about, so you have done, because I looked at your LinkedIn profile, research. Harvard Business School, did you?
Yes.
So you've taken some qualifications as you've built your business?
No. Well, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Where do we start with that? I've taken the opportunity to get access to free learning when I've been provided it. So I've been working in businesses, and they've rolled out educational programs before to a number of select individuals. And it was called it wasn't called that. It was called Harvard Manage Mentor. And it was effectively how to apply management practices into a business.
Okay.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
Hated it.
Okay.
Hated it. Shall I tell you why? Nothing worked in practice. And the reason nothing worked is, I've always had from people, you're really different, Kris. You're a really different kind of person. You care about the individual more than you care about following the process or the protocol. And I think that's what helps someone stand out, is to be authentically you. It's all very well following what they advise you to do and how to act in certain situations. But ultimately, if you're not applying your own nous to it and your own flair, you're merely just becoming a carbon copy of the program. But don't get me wrong, I don't believe that everything educational is wrong. We build training platforms for people. I know how important education is. And in certain circumstances, we help people identify different types of melanoma. We help one of the training platforms we've done is to help salons and hairdressers and barbers to identify when there's melanomas in areas that they would see on the back of someone's head that they wouldn't necessarily see. I get that education is important, but it's all a case of applying it and making sure that it's relative to what you want to do with your life. And for me, have I ever used my psychology A level? Probably not. When I write English language and apply myself to writing literature now, I get really good feedback. But I was ungradable. I was told that I was never going to be employable by my sixth form, head of sixth form. And actually, he was right. I am unemployable. That's why I have my own business, because those people are unemployable for very good reason.
Yeah. I know. I hear you, and I know that I am equally unemployable, Kris.
We'll create a new fan club, Tony. It's going to be called the Unemployables.
The Unemployables. Oh my God! Yes,
we should. Yes,
it's like sort of like I don't know, in a program called the Undateables. We could have the Unemployables, so we can pitch that to Channel 5. The Unemployables, or maybe maybe we should pitch not Channel 5. We'll pitch it to Netflix.
Why not? I mean, that is the go-to platform nowadays. That is the go-to platform.
So what is next for you? We've, there's some yachts in the marina. They don't have your name on yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
What is next?
Good question. Do you know, I'm so engrossed in enjoying what I'm doing now that my plan only stretches out to really about 5 years. So it's a very interesting debate, because between me and my business partner, Christiana, who another interesting conversation, how do you run a business when your business partner's overseas? That's a fun one. But the relationship that we've got, she wants to build the business up and keep it, and I'm going, well, how do we build it up and have an exit strategy in 10 years time, which is typical within the field that we work in the creative field. So my plan is to grow over the next 5 years significantly. We're on a diversification path, and we are on a very clear growth strategy and what we're aiming for as a business, and everyone within the business is bought into that. But beyond 5 years, that's a debate for me and Christiana to have. Can't answer that question. But for now, I'm very passionate about that, and also with helping others, smaller businesses, and other people outside of work through charity work and things like that. So it's very, 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 I say 5 years, I know what I'm going to do, but beyond that, I've not got a huge idea yet.
And I guess to touch on that, actually, you said, motivated by money to an extent. However, you have helped other business founders and owners. I think you've done some mentoring there. And
with Virgin.
So there's that, and also you volunteer for the Samaritans as well. So there is something beyond just money for you. How does that sort of form part of who you are?
Good question. I think so. There's two arms. There's Virgin School for Startups, and for those who are watching this who don't know what they are and how they operate, they effectively fund small businesses by giving a loan out, and then they match them up with mentors, people like me, to help them grow their business and help them scale their business to another level. So you've got people who are great inventors. You've got people who have got a great product or a great business idea, have no idea how to get it up off the ground, or if they do, it's very, very limited knowledge. So they fund them, and then they give help, and the help comes as pro bono through people like me. Why do I do that? Partly to give back, partly to build a network. I'm very, very passionate about small businesses, really want to help the economy grow, and it's something that I'm really passionate about. However, on the flip side, yes, I do Samaritans work, and it's a very interesting role, because I'm very keen not to be a people pleaser, but to help and support individuals. And I appreciate that mental health is a disability that's not necessarily visible, and it's important that people have the opportunity to speak, because so often people are crippled by their own mindset that they're not able to see the the bigger picture and then able to go to the next level. And equally, people who do run businesses, which are very, very high stress environments, don't get the opportunity to really see what they can be doing and how they can be helping themselves by thinking in a different way. And it's very easy, if you've got money constraints or money concerns, or you've got concerns over delivering something, it can very quickly have an impact on your life in a very detrimental way. So that's why I do a lot of work with Samaritans. Obviously they run a very confidential service, fantastic service. If anyone's ever thinking of joining, who's watching this, I highly recommend looking into it. I do what we refer to as a night owl service. So I'm one of the people who sits on the phone at night and speaks to individuals who are in an hour of need. But the idea is that you get to speak to the individuals before they get to the point of considering ultimately something that could drastically change their life and their loved ones' lives as well.
Wow. So I don't know, it's quite
How do you come back off of that one, Tony?
I don't know. I mean, I don't even know, Kris, where to take that. But what's interesting to me is that you operate in a professional sphere, which is about helping organizations to make money. They're selling through marketing. But there is this kind of sense running alongside that you're not just in it for yourself, you're actually seeking to help other people to change their lives in a positive way, whether that's through their business or giving them support when they need it. And 5 years from now, who knows
who
what
knows
you'll be doing.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Could be championing my own charity, could end up, to give back. I could have another business on the go. I've already got some ideas of where it could be, but nothing's set in stone yet. And to be honest, planning is really important. I get that. But if you look back at what my plan was and how different it's turned out, so my plan was to go to secondary school, be really successful in my GCSEs. That's turned out differently. Plan was to go into A levels and then claw that back and to be able to achieve success for A levels. That's turned out very differently. And then again, other ideas in my life. If you ever said to me when I started the cosmetics business, are you going to go into bioenergy and solid fuel combustion? Would have been a big fat no. I would have said, I don't know what you're talking about and don't understand how it works. Same again, would I go into marketing? Would have thought, well, no, because I don't really understand necessarily how to sell my services. I just know how to sell the product that I am working with at that point in time. So again, it's important to plan, yes, but I wanted to make sure that I keep an open mind to be able to seize the opportunity that exists at that point in time, and what might be an opportunity now may not be in 5 years' time, and what doesn't exist now could become an opportunity in 5 years' time. So yeah, keeping an open mind is an important one for me.
Yeah, and to finish on that point, one thing that's really interesting about all the things you've done is, like you said, diving in with both feet and spotting opportunities and being alert to those things. How would you, let's say someone was coming to you maybe for a little bit of coaching, and how would you direct them to kind of notice where those opportunities are and to put themselves forward? So someone's going, I've got an idea for a business, but I've got no money and I've got no connections. What do they need to be doing?
That is a really good way of positioning it, because again, when you consider what I've invested into getting things to start, I intentionally, when we put KAYBE as a limited company, we intentionally wanted to prove that you didn't have to have much to create something. So between my business partner and I, we started it on £300 each.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So, and that was being lavish with certain things, to be honest with you. So we probably could have done it for about £200 each, but we didn't. We went to £600, and it's a very, very different landscape now. And I think there's part of it is to everyone I talk to from Samaritans, I never tell someone what to do. And when I mentor an individual in the business, I'm never, ever, ever telling them what to do. People have the answers to their own questions. But for me, my challenge is, how do I ask the why? Why are you doing that? So for example, one of the things I try to instill in the business is a 3-tier process: brain, buddy, boss. First of all, ask yourself, then ask a colleague, then ask the leader of the business, before you then just go, oh, I'm just going to do the easy thing and go straight to the boss. I think what's hard is that people don't necessarily apply their thinking. And through mentoring and coaching, it's then my opportunity to help them apply their thought process, to be able to come to an outcome that they would have been capable of, but all I'm doing is teasing that information out from them. So yes, if you have no money, but you've got an idea where you want to go, or you want to do something, but you don't know what it is, finding a good mentor or finding a good partner or someone to work with is really key in helping you tease out where you could be going and what your capability is. Quite often I hear people say that they're stuck in jobs they don't enjoy. I love my job. I love what I do for a living, but actually they're the only people who can change that. I can give them all the advice under the sun, but actually I'm not the person who can change that for them. They're the people who can change it, and they have to want to change it. So if we get an opportunity to help them change it, then if they feel like they've come up with the ideas, they're more inclined to be following them through because they feel that it's their idea. Whereas if it's, I'm going to follow the plan of Kris Britton and what he's put in front of me, why would I do that? That's not proven to do anything in my situation. So if it's their ideas, they'd be able to follow it through. So I think, coming back to your question, it is, again, important to be align yourself to the right people and build on a network. If you don't know people, LinkedIn is a great place to start. Communities are awesome. People do reach out. There are all sorts of starting business communities, same on Facebook as well. If you want something in a little less professional environment, a bit more relaxed, there are networks out there to really start conversations and see where they take you.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Great advice for life. We're going to get you a t-shirt that says Brain Buddy Boss, although you probably already have one, don't you?
I don't actually. So if my Secret Santa delivers that, I know where it's come from.
Oh, right. Committed myself now.
How about that? And I'll take a thumbnail still for this video. How does that sound?
Yeah, that
Brain
sounds
Buddy
really
Boss.
Brain Buddy Boss. Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure, Kris. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. Really appreciate the opportunity, and best of luck to anyone who's watching this video.
Lovely. Thanks.